Debt is like a double-edged sword. It can make you very rich, but it can also ruin you overnight. In this video, we'll show you how the rich use debt to make more money and how it can be a powerful tool that supports all their dreams and goals. Number 1. The rich build big businesses. The history of debt is nothing new. It began in the 19th century when Rockefeller built businesses that would be worth $400,000 million today. Rockefeller wasn't born rich. He was the son of a farmer and dropped out of high school. He didn't do well in school because they didn't teach him anything about money. However, when he got a job as an accounting assistant, he learned about the business world and realized he could get very rich if he had enough money to start his projects. So he started a small agricultural products business and borrowed $1,000 from his father. That was his first debt, but it helped him enter the business world. In 2 years, he earned $17,000. At that time, the oil industry was growing. There was a market for kerosene oil, but extracting it with coal was difficult and expensive. That's why Rockefeller used gasoline instead of coal and manufactured barrels at a much lower cost. These new ideas made bankers and lenders trust him, and they started lending him money under better terms. That's when everything changed for Rockefeller. He used debt to buy smaller competitors and create an oil monopoly. This monopoly allowed him to get discounts from railroads. Now, he could transport kerosene at prices so low that even families with little money could afford it. By the 1860s, the farmer's son had become a millionaire at 31, and his company, Standard Oil, refined 90% of the oil in the U.S. The most remarkable thing about Rockefeller is that he always paid his debts on time, but never hesitated to borrow when he saw an opportunity to grow. Number 2. The rich increase their debt. In 2012, when Mark Zuckerberg bought a house, he got a mortgage with an interest rate of just 1.5%, while the average mortgage rate was around 2.7%. If you're wondering why Zuckerberg got such a low rate, it's because at the time he had a net worth of $15,000 million, and bankers were confident he'd pay them back. Since lending to Zuckerberg was low risk, bankers could offer him a lower interest rate. It's well known that the higher your net worth or credit score, the lower your interest rate. However, many people don't realize what Zuckerberg actually achieved with this deal. First, he moved into a house he loved immediately and could live there as long as he wanted. Second, he invested his own money in opportunities that would bring him much higher profits, even after paying the interest on his debt. And third, he chose to pay off the house over the next 30 years, meaning the real value of those payments would be much lower in the future due to inflation. By not locking up his money up front, he took advantage of opportunities that would yield high returns, delayed some expenses, and reduced his cost to a small fraction compared to rising inflation. Number 3. The rich don't mix things up. When Elon Musk decided to buy Twitter, he borrowed $1,000 million, even though his fortune was close to $250,000 million. This might seem strange to the average person, because if you have $250,000 million, you could surely pay $1,000 million without a problem. However, Elon Musk didn't think twice about borrowing money for this purchase. These types of purchases are known as leveraged buyouts, LBOs. In an LBO, the borrowed money is backed by the assets of the company being purchased. In this case, Twitter. So, lenders loan money expecting the company to generate profits. Future cash flows will help pay off the debt. Musk bought Twitter not just because he saw it as another profitable business, but also because he considered a way to drive social change and secure free speech. But this also means Musk has no doubts about Twitter's profitability. That's why the LBO makes even more sense. If Twitter makes money, Elon will get a big share. However, if Twitter fails, Elon's risk is limited to the money he invested. Lenders can't force Elon to pay the debt out of his own pocket. They can only recover their money by selling Twitter's assets. Only time will tell if those assets will be enough to cover the entire debt. By borrowing money, Elon ensured his personal assets were safe and that all his companies maintained separate legal identities. Lenders can't ask him to sell his Tesla shares, worth $94,000 million, to cover the Twitter purchase. This way, Elon Musk can continue living his luxurious life without worrying about anything. Number 4. The rich generate cash flow. The rich love buying assets and holding on to them forever. They like passing these assets down to their children, knowing their value will increase. So, they prefer taking care of their families over being debt-free. However, this doesn't mean they'll pass up any great investment opportunity that comes their way. While their money is tied up in assets that aren't easily sold, they generate liquidity by borrowing and take advantage of profitable business opportunities. In April 2023, Mukesh Ambani, chairman of Reliance Industries, took out the largest corporate loan in India's history. Ambani borrowed $5,500 million to implement 5G across the country, but that amount wasn't even 7% of his total wealth of $82,000 million. Ambani's 27-story house cost $2,000 million, and he owns properties worldwide. With just a few of those properties, he could have easily funded the 5G rollout without borrowing. However, he did it because he wanted to leave his assets to his 3 children, who could help India reach 2% of its GDP by 2030. The 5G implementation could generate $180,000 million in economic growth, and no one knows this better than Mr. Ambani, a major telecommunications tycoon. So, passing up this opportunity due to a lack of cash isn't the kind of decision expected of him. He'd rather borrow now and pay with the profits from 5G in the future than sit back and watch other telecom companies take his market share. Number 5. The rich don't take salaries. Though we've all heard about the billion-dollar houses, expensive cars, and luxurious vacations the world's rich spend their money on, a much lesser-known fact is that they don't pay for all this with their salaries. In 2021, Elon Musk shared the secret behind such a lavish lifestyle in a tweet. "I only have stock, so the only way for me to pay taxes personally is to sell stock." While most Twitter users simply scrolled past that tweet, very few understood what it really meant. Elon Musk doesn't receive a salary, but he owns Tesla stock worth billions of dollars. However, he doesn't sell it either, and still lives a very luxurious life. The secret? He borrows money using his shares as collateral and lives off that debt. This gives him 2 advantages. First, he doesn't have to pay taxes. Debt is borrowed money and isn't taxed, even though he still has money in his bank account to spend as he pleases. Second, he doesn't actually sell his Tesla stock because doing so would trigger capital gains taxes. He just uses the shares as collateral for the loan. Some even call this a permanent line of credit. For example, if he gets a loan at 6% interest, all he needs to ensure is that Tesla grows by at least 6%. When it's time to pay that debt, he takes out another loan against the same shares and pays off the first one. This cycle continues, and Musk lives a life we can only dream of. Number 6. The rich enjoy real estate. I can't imagine paying a mortgage for a house, but the rich have borrowed to buy multiple properties worldwide. The surprising part? They don't even live in those houses themselves. Another surprise is that despite having billions of dollars, they borrow money to buy properties worth just millions. For example, Elon Musk borrowed $61 million to buy 5 houses in California in 2018, even though he could have paid for them outright. So, what does the average person miss in all this? Ordinary people only borrow when they need to buy something they can't afford. However, the rich borrow even when they can pay in cash. The main reason? Debt isn't taxed. Here's how the real estate business works. Suppose you find a property worth $1 million. You borrow 80% from the bank and get 20% from investors. If your debt payment is $1,000 and property maintenance costs are $20,000, your total expenses are $10,000. Now, if you can rent the property for $10,000, you can buy it without using your own money. The best part? You won't have to pay taxes on this income. That's because you can apply property depreciation each year. This isn't an actual expense that takes money out of your pocket, but a cost considered due to property's wear and tear, which you can deduct from your income. In our example, you can depreciate the building at a standard industry rate. The common real estate depreciation rate is 3.9%, meaning you can depreciate $1 million over 39 years, or $25,000 per year. Since depreciation is higher than your $2,000 income, you show a tax loss of negative $56,000 while still having $2,000 in your bank account to spend as you wish.